What's up? We are in Norristown, Pennsylvania. Why? Well, because behind me is what's called Selma Mansion. And about a year ago, there was a ghost hunting team that came in here and filmed a couple episodes of their television show that, well, it's not actually a TV show, it's an internet show that they got some evidence in. And in particular, they got a video which showed a door closing by itself. And that really prompted me to come out here, and I wanted to take a look and get into it because I kind of knew what it was, but I needed to prove it. So hopefully you're going to like this video. It's not going to be funny or crazy like the other ones that I do. It's going to be more informational and kind of show how I do an investigation of a claim. Now let me tell you that there's a lot of claims that come out of here. There's like noises and voices, EVPs, and other pictures and videos and stuff. I'm not concerned with that. I'm not really dealing with any of that. I am dealing with one claim in particular, and really during my investigations, that's pretty much what I do. You focus on one or two claims and you solve them before you move on to the others. And that's what we're going to do today. So first we're going to do a walkthrough. I'm going to give you some history of the place and give you a feel for what's going on, and then we're going to get into the details and see what we find. Alright? Thank you.
The history of Selma Mansion begins in 1794, when Andrew Porter built a house on land he acquired 8 years prior. There was already a small structure on the property, so Mr. Porter simply built onto the existing building, creating the Selma Mansion. Andrew Porter was born in Montgomery County in 1753. On June 19, 1776, he was appointed by the Continental Congress to Captain of the Marines, and is historically known as one of the founders of the U.S. Marine Corps. In 1783, he retired to his plantation, named Selma, located in what was known then as Norriton Township, and today that area is part of Norristown, Pennsylvania. From 1784 to 1787, he was engaged as Commissioner to the Boundary Lines of Pennsylvania. By 1801, he was Brigadier General of the Pennsylvania Militia, and was promoted to Major General. In 1809, he was appointed Surveyor General of Pennsylvania, holding this post until his death in 1813. And the history doesn't stop there, my friends. Mr. Porter's sons also made their mark in history. Robert Porter was President Judge of the Pennsylvania 3rd District Court. David Rittenhouse Porter was elected to the State Assembly in 1881 and later to State Senate. He was elected governor of Pennsylvania from 1839 to 1845. George Bryan Porter was a major during the War of 1812. In 1827, he served as a Democratic representative in the Pennsylvania State House. In 1831, President Andrew Jackson appointed him governor of the Michigan Territory. James Madison Porter became a clerk in 1812, and this is really interesting. He helped raise and manage a volunteer militia to garrison Fort Mifflin, eventually advancing to the rank of colonel. He was appointed Attorney General for the Northampton County. James played an important part in founding the Lafayette College, serving as president of the Board of Trustees from 1826 to 1852. He was appointed Secretary of War in 1843. Andrew Porter's, that's the guy that started this all, his granddaughter, Eliza Parker, married Robert Todd, and they had a daughter named Mary Todd. And guess who she married? Our 16th president, Abraham Lincoln. That's pretty good history right there. In 1821, the Selma farm was sold to Andrew Knox and his family. Mr. Knox had been a merchant in Savannah, Georgia, up until the War of 1812, which destroyed his business. He packed up his family and moved north. After his death, the mansion passed to his son, Colonel Thomas P. Knox, who was president of the Pennsylvania Agricultural Society. In 1953, he sold 40 of the 120-acre estate, which led to the development of the west end of Norris. The house then came to the possession of Joseph Fornance, a lawyer and president of the Historical Society of Montgomery County. In 1902, he sold an additional 22 acres of the property. The house passed then to his son, Joseph Knox Fornance, who lived in the house with his wife Ruth until his death in 1982. Ruth rejoined her husband in 1965. After Ruth passed away, the mansion was offered with everything contained inside to the state of Pennsylvania, then to Montgomery County, and finally to the borough of Norristown. Sadly, nobody accepted the offer. And incredibly, a yard sale, get this, a yard sale took place in which an unknown number of antiques and historical items were lost forever because they were sold cheap and everybody snatched them up. Rumor has it that an entire crate of Union soldier uniforms were snatched up for pennies on the dollar. That's sad. Just before the mansion was to receive its death blow by a wrecking ball, the Norristown Preservation Society was formed to save this historical landmark. Yeah. Just before the mansion was to receive its death blow by the wrecking ball, the Norristown Preservation Society was formed to save this historical landmark. Its members are dedicated and passionate about the Selma Mansion and hold fundraising events throughout the year. If you can, it needs volunteers, so if you can help in any way, donations or volunteering, please do so. But for now, let's take a look inside and let's get this investigation started. Alright, here we are. This is where the video was shot, and this is the door that slams shut here. And the camera that's on me right now is approximately where the camera was that made the video. Now, let's talk about the videos. There's two versions of the same video. They were edited from the same footage, from the same camera. One was posted on the Pups website, and that version basically shows you that the door's open like it is now, and after a few seconds, it closes over. And it doesn't close all the way. Let me see. It closes to about, I guess about here. And then the video jumps ahead 2 hours. And it actually says on it 2 hours. It jumps ahead. And it starts out right here. So we missed the movement in between here. So it moves a little bit and then jumps 2 hours ahead, and all of a sudden it's here. And then after a few more seconds, it slams shut. Like so. And what we have is that it fades to black, and that's the end of the video, and that's the evidence. And this is the evidence that I saw. This is the video that I saw first, and what prompted me to contact Steve and Lisa from Pups and talk to them and start discussing what might have happened here, what other causes besides anything paranormal might be going on. And in talking to them, I found out that there was another video, and this is from episode 15 of season 2 of the Ghost Detectives online internet show. It's a paranormal ghost hunting show that's online. And at the end of their 2-part show, because they filmed 2 episodes here, at the end of the show, they put up a notice on the screen that said, now for the scariest footage ever to come out of Selma Mansion. And it's the same clip, except instead of starting with the door all the way open and you seeing like a good movement, it actually starts right here, right before the big slam. And if you've watched the video already, because hopefully I didn't screw up and I put the link up so you guys can see it. But this video, the one that's in the Ghost Detective episode, it starts out about right here and it slams shut. Now, from this point and from after watching the original video that I saw on the Pups website, everybody kind of thought the door slammed shut and it latched. But later on, after seeing this episode on the Ghost Detective show, we find out that it didn't latch because the door, after a few seconds, actually opens up and it starts going back and forth. If you watch the light on the top and the bottom of the door, you can see that it moves back and forth and it's waving. It's going in and out. So it doesn't slam shut, it actually opens up again. Now, during the Ghost Detective show, at the end of the video when it fades to black, there's another notice that comes up and says that every attempt to debunk this was attempted with no explanation found. Personally, I think that they took this event at face value. They didn't really look into it enough. And they did attempt to debunk it. I'll give them that. Steve from Pups actually was filmed in here with a table fan. And he had the fan inside there on a little fold-out table, and he was trying to blow the door over using just a fan. But, as we're going to get into later, we're going to see that that wasn't an effective way to recreate what happened.
and we'll get into more of the science behind it and what I think happened and what I found that backed up my idea. Okay? So let's take a walk around. Alright, so now that we've described the videos, and hopefully you stopped my video, you went over and looked at the videos so you can get an idea of what's going on, let's talk about some of the issues that came up right away. I'm not an actor, so I'm not really good at memorizing lines, so I have my notes, as any good investigator does. Anyway, so there's two versions of this, and each leaving out different parts. I mean, they skip ahead for 2 hours, or they jump ahead for a couple minutes. Not only were the videos cut and edited for clips to put on the show, and time constraints and all that, you have to just show the best part, I guess the juicy part. But they skip ahead, especially the one where it skips ahead 2 hours. We have no idea what went on in those 2 hours. Was the door waving back and forth? Could we see it going back a little bit? It stays for a while, comes forward. I mean, when it jumps ahead 2 hours, the door literally jumps. It goes from here to here, and we're left wondering, okay, when did it move? Another thing is that there's noises. There's noises in both versions that we can hear. That, yeah, there's traffic outside, but there's also noises that indicate that there's something inside. Something's inside happening. And when I talked to the teams about this, and this is a year ago, but when I talked to them, they said that the cameras were left alone and they weren't in the building. Nobody was in here. So basically, we have no confirmation that nobody was in the building. I believe that the video actually says camera 3 or feed 3. So there's at least 3 cameras that we're assuming. Of course we're assuming, because it could have been just they plugged that camera into port 3. But there's another camera that's in view of the video. Like we see another one pointing down the stairs. So there's other views, but we still don't have any confirmation that nobody was actually in the building. And as we're going to discuss a little bit later, that information could have been mistaken. And there's an event that happened to me when I was here a little after that investigation that came up and shows that they could have been mistaken that somebody was here. That'll make sense later. My first impression of the video was that this was nothing more than airflow. It was air pressure in the building, positive, negative air pressure, and air coming in from the outside, and making the door slam, or actually making the door move, swing back and forth, and then slam on its own. And this is something you've probably all seen dozens of times, more than dozens of times over the years. Every time you open a door or window when it's nice out, and you have your bathroom or bedroom door slam, or start moving back and forth because of the air coming in. What I didn't like about it is that there was nothing to indicate if there was any airflow at all. Like they didn't hang a piece of paper up or tissue paper to show any kind of breeze coming through, which is not a common thing. You don't really see that in any investigations because it's not something that people think of. What else? Another issue is that with no one in the house during the time of filming, you have no confirmation of the conditions, the environment that was going on. Was it windy outside? Was it breezy in here? Was it cold? What was going on? We don't know because all we have is one camera view and no eyewitnesses that were in here. Any statement of like there was no wind that day, there wasn't any airflow through the building, any statements like that are baseless. They're useless. They have no bearing on the evidence because no one was here to confirm it. All we have is video, and it doesn't show anything. And the last issue that I have that comes up right away is more of a pet peeve. I don't understand why there's 2 versions of the same video. You have to watch the version that was sent to Pup's team to see the beginning, and then you have to watch the episode of Ghost Detectives to see what happens after the main event, the door slamming. You have to put them 2 videos together to see the whole thing. I don't understand why they're clipped that way. I don't know if that was just miscommunication or somebody wasn't sure what they were clipping. I don't know. But just because there's 2 versions, it kind of sends a red flag up. And honestly, watching both versions, either separately or together, it still doesn't add up to anything that was scary. It's simply a door moving. Alright, so if you haven't figured it out already, my first impression of this video is that it was simply air pressure. It was airflow through the house. Nothing more. There was nothing paranormal, nothing ghostly, nothing spooky about it. It was just a door closing because of the air pressure inside the house, changing because of the outside weather. So I went onto the YouTube page where the first video, the Pups version, I saw. And I posted a question just asking, could this be a result of airflow? And I went back and forth with Steve from Pups, who was a very nice guy. We had a great conversation. It was very polite and professional, and something that I really would like to give props to, because most of the time people argue with me on these kind of things. So it was a good conversation, and I want to read to you what he said. He mentioned that Odd Jobber Joe replaced all broken windows, and the draft is minimal. Yes, there is airflow in the mansion from the windows and vents, but to actually close the door takes much more force than the average draft. As it turns out, though, it doesn't, and I'll explain more of that later. You see, when you're dealing with the air pressure inside a building, when you have a positive pressure going into a negative pressure, all the air that's in that room is acting on the entire surface of that door. And it's not just a little bit of it, it's acting on the entire surface of the door and pushing the door closed. So it doesn't really take a lot of effort to close the door or to move it. This is much different than using a table fan and putting it on a table and blowing air at it, because all you're doing is pretty much, you're moving the air that's already in the room and you're focusing on a small part of the door. So it's not the same, it's not using the same force. It was a good attempt at recreating it to try to debunk it, but unfortunately the science wasn't there, and they just didn't have all the knowledge necessary to understand what was going on. We'll get into more of this later. At the same time I was talking to Steve from Pups, I contacted Steve Barry from the Ghost Detectives, and I presented my airflow idea to him. One of the first things that he mentioned was that there was a warp in the floor, and that's where the door had stopped for the first time. So in the video we see the door actually closed to about here, and this is a rough estimate because I don't have exact measurements, but he said that there's a warp disc right here, and you needed a lot of force. You needed some force to push it past there. It wouldn't just glide on its own. So let me demonstrate something here. I'm just going to use my pinky and just move the door in one smooth motion. No force at all, barely any force. All the way closed. And I just wanted to do that not to, prove them wrong or whatever. I'm just demonstrating that it doesn't take any force. There is no warp section in the floor that affects the door closing at all. So I wanted just to explain that part and get that out of the way. And further along in the conversation that I was having with Mr. Barry, that he mentioned that there was no breeze that day, no window open, no draft in the house to cause it. Again, it goes back to the fact that no one was in the house at the time, and no one can confirm that there was no wind going on. And you don't really need a lot of wind. You don't need a windstorm or a rainstorm or any kind of bad weather to cause this effect. It could be just a normal day with a breeze coming through, and it takes one breeze to make the door move. Ugh. It's cold in here. Woo-hoo-hoo. Another point that Mr. Barry brought up was that in the video there's a soccer ball and a soda can placed on the floor here. Now he mentions that neither moved. If there was a breeze, they would have possibly moved too. Now, granted, if they were in the pathway, I would have said maybe. But because of their placement, they were actually placed right about here. And this is out of the path of any airflow, any air pressure that was changing, because it'll go from doorway to doorway out into here. There really is no reason for them to move. Okay, up until now, the information that I was getting was from conversations with Mr. Barry from the Ghost Detectives, Steve and Lisa from Pups, and the videos themselves, plus the episode that had aired about this place. So I needed to get here. I needed to figure out some more things. So I actually contacted Lisa and Steve and arranged a visit. It was a quick visit. I was in the area, so I decided to stop by and they were having an event anyway, so it worked out pretty good. And I was able to check out some things. I looked at some of the windows real quick and got some ideas. I basically wanted just to see the area where it was going on. And confirm that a lot of the stuff that I had found, as in broken windows and gaps between window frames and openings to the outside, were there, so that air pressure was definitely not only plausible, but most probably the cause of the door slamming. So the next day, I contacted Mr. Barry again and told him what I found, and actually included a link to a very good article on air pressure. It explains how positive and negative pressures within a house can cause an open door to slam shut because of an open window or another open door within the house. It also explains how it takes very little force for that door to be pushed, to be slammed. Basically, the idea is that as the positive pressure moves into the negative pressure, it's working on the entire surface of the door, okay? And the air that's in the room, the positive pressure, is trying to get out, all right? So it's moving the door closed. Now, as the door starts closing, the opening between the door and the door frame becomes smaller and smaller. And what happens when you try to put something through a smaller opening? You need more pressure. And the positive pressure still wants to get to the negative pressure, so it goes in quicker, which means as the door's slamming like this, the opening's getting smaller and smaller, it's rushing out, more pressure, bam, you get the slam at the end. That's the signature slamming door you have when you have the difference in pressures in the house. And you guys, again, I'm going to say it again, and it's probably going to annoy you because I'm saying it so often, but you guys experience this in the springtime when you start opening windows. And you're sitting downstairs watching TV, and all of a sudden upstairs you hear one of the bedroom doors slam shut. And you're like, what the hell is that? It's air pressure. So me and Mr. Barry discussed this, and he replied that, and let me get it right here. He said it was very interesting, but there were no windows open, and I don't believe a small draft would make a door shut. It would have to be a lot larger than a draft. I can't go with this explanation. They're talking about, the article, about windows being open. If it was a draft from a broken window, yes. A crack, no. And that was his response to it, which is good. At the time, because I only had a quick visit here, I couldn't really argue too much. So I had arranged to come back here, because I knew from past experiences that there were broken windows here. I just had to make sure. Alright, so in February of 2012, I had arranged a visit to the Selma Mansion with Steve and Lisa. And when I got here, Steve met me at the door and gave me a little tour around to show me what the improvements that they've been doing around the place. And I gotta say, I want to take a moment here to just say that the Pups team has been doing a fabulous job. Fabulous! Really, an awesome job trying to get this place back to what it used to be. They're working all the time, they're trying to get volunteers, and they really do a good job of cleaning up the place and presenting it as a historical site. It's amazing the work that they're doing. But back to the investigation. Yeah, so I arranged to come here, and as Steve was giving me a tour around the place, I kind of looked up at this window, and this is the kitchen that we're in right now. I looked up at this window and noticed that there was no window up here. This is just a screen, and the shutters are closed, but you can see at the top there's an opening. This goes out to the outside. So this is the first indication that, okay, that there are windows that are broken. And previously I was told that all the windows were replaced and that there were nothing open. None of the windows were open or the doors were open. I'm sorry I'm stuttering. It's freaking cold in here. But again, that was my first indication that, okay, so the information that I got before was mistaken, because there are obviously windows that are broken and open to the outside. So air's coming in. Alright, so after seeing the broken window in the kitchen, I wanted to really get to work. I wanted to start measuring all these windows to see what kind of gaps there were between the frames and see how many windows were broken or missing and this and that. So Steve let me get to work. And within probably, I guess like 10, 15 minutes, he came up, he got a phone call, he had to leave. And he really graciously allowed me to stay, which was great. I really appreciate that. He let me stay and continue what I was doing. So he's gone, and I'm here with my son. And my son was helping me take measurements or point out things. And he comes out from the hallway, he comes in the room where I'm working and says, "Hey Dad, I hear somebody walking on the stairs," which, you know, that's kind of weird because we were supposed to be the only two in here. And I'm thinking, oh great, here we go. I'm alone and I'm hearing footsteps. Wonderful. So I come out, I come down the steps to meet a gentleman who was alive, walking up the steps. And he introduced himself as Russell. And apparently he's the president of the Norristown Preservation Society. And he was coming in to check on things and what was going on, because there was a ghost hunting team in here the night before, and he had wanted to come in to check on the house and make sure all the lights were turned off and this and that. I explained what I was doing, and we got to talking. And this put a thought in my head, because his visit was unexpected. Steve didn't know he was coming by. I didn't know he was coming by. He just came in to check on things himself, which is cool. I mean, he's the president of the Preservation Society. Of course, it's right. But think about it. If you're here all night doing a ghost investigation, or your ghost hunt, because it's not really an investigation, and you leave cameras here the next day or the next morning and go out to get breakfast, lunch, or whatever to take a break, you really don't know what's going on unless you have cameras all over the entire house and you can document who comes in. There's noises on the video, and I've mentioned this earlier in this episode, that I heard noises on the video and it sounded like there were people inside. It sounded like somebody was moving or doing stuff inside. Now, in talking to Russell, he said he was coming in to turn off the lights and to check on things, make sure everything was in place. He also makes a comment that there was no need to go to the third floor because there's no electricity up there. So there's no reason for him to go up here, which is really important, because the whole video in question of the bathroom door that closes takes place on the third floor. So he could have easily come in here, and this is just a possibility. I'm not saying this definitely happened. This is just a possibility. But he could have come in here, checked on the place, went around the first and second floor, turned off the lights, and then left without ever coming up to the third floor, which he would have never been on camera. And of course, that adds the whole air pressure thing, the airflow thing, because he would have been opening the main door. And if he opens the main door, he's going to change the pressure inside. When he closes it, changes the pressure inside. And that might cause it. There is some noise that gets a little bit louder during the one point where the door in the mysterious video, when it closes, there is a little increase in noise. So whether that has anything to do with someone visiting or not, I don't know. Man, it's cold in here. Whew, I'm shivering. Alright, so in order to make sure what was going on, I arranged another visit. And this time I was able to contact Steve and Lisa at Pops and arrange for me to come out here for a couple hours. I actually proposed an experiment that I wanted to see if there was enough air coming in and out of the building in order to make the door close. And one of the first things I needed to do for this was to come out and measure all the windows. I wanted to take a look and see what kind of gaps there were, and if there were any broken windows that I could document. I came out here, went through the whole place, basically started at the third floor and worked my way down. And when I got to the second floor here, walked in this room, found this bad boy. Now, what's here is this is a plastic bag, because the glass behind it is pretty much gone. When you look, and I'll give you a view. You know what? Let's go look right now. No glass. We'll come down here. We'll show you that there's no glass here. This is basically open to the outside except for the shutters. Let's see the shutter right here. Yeah. Alright, just from seeing what's going on with this window here, this big window, that there's nothing stopping it except for this plastic bag from the outside. There's plenty of airflow coming in here. So you're going to have your positive and negative air pressure easily throughout this house. And it's just the fact that the bathroom door on the third floor is the lightest door of any of these bedroom doors here. So it's not surprising that one would move back and forth. That's not really surprising at all. The only thing that's stopping this is the plastic bag. And you can see that this goes back and forth pretty easy. And the air is going to push it back out. Yeah. Alright, so you've been hearing me talk a lot about air pressure and probably being the cause of what happened here. And I explained it a little bit, but let's go into it a little bit more detail. And I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to read off my notes here because I'm not an expert, but I did research this. And what I found really applies to what's going on here. Drafts in a building will create pressure differences throughout the entire building. Positive pressure, which is a high pressure, and negative pressure, which is a low pressure. The wind outside will cause different pressures inside the building. If air is blown in, it's going to create a positive pressure. If air is sucked out, it's going to cause a negative pressure. Sucked out. Anyway, common problems that are associated with the pressure differences are slamming doors, noises, whistling, and unusually hot and cold rooms. I mean, that's what we have here. We have noises throughout the building. Slamming doors, that's a definite possibility. As air comes into the room from the outside, from like the wind, it creates a positive pressure. Well, that pressure has to go somewhere. It has to equalize. So positive pressure will always move to a negative pressure. And that means if there's air coming in here and creates a positive pressure in this room, it's going to flow out the doorway into the hallway and try to equalize. And what happens is that the door is in the way. If the door is angled enough that it's going to catch some of the wind coming in, or the air pressure difference, it's going to carry it. And here's the big difference. It's not going to act like a fan that's blowing on the door. It's not going to act, because a fan will blow on one section of the door. Okay, it'll hit a little bit, it'll bounce off. A fan's only going to circulate the air that's already in the room. It doesn't create any more pressure. What's happening when you create a positive pressure here from outside air coming in is that all the air that's in this room now wants to start going outside and wants to equalize. So all the air is acting on the entire surface of the door. And instead of just pushing a little bit, it's working on the entire door itself. So it takes a lot less force in order to move that door. On the opposite end of it, if air is being sucked out, the same thing's happening. If air is getting sucked out, say a window that's broken, it's going to create a negative pressure in here. And that means that it's going to try to get air from outside in the hallway, because it's trying to equalize in here. It's going to suck in air from the hallway, which means if that door is closed, it's going to open it up. It's going to push it back, working on the entire surface on the opposite side and pushing the door open. With wind direction, especially because this house, this mansion, is on a hill. It's on a hill. You can look out the windows and look over top of pretty much everything else in town. So you're going to get these crazy wind patterns on all sides of the building. So you're going to have air coming in and out. And so having a door that's being affected by air pressure, that's waving in and out, that's going like this, is not uncommon. I really don't see a problem with that. And of course, this information is based on having a window open. You have to have some kind of window open. And as we demonstrated already, there's at least one big broken window on the second floor that's from top to bottom, it's broken out. There's the kitchen window where half the window is gone and it's just replaced by a screen. Something that I didn't film because I just couldn't get access was the attic. There used to be a ladder around here, and there's not a ladder now. I can't climb up into it. And I don't want to fall down because that'll probably happen. But the main window that faces the parking lot, there is no glass, there's no window, there's a screen there. So you have an opening that's about this big circle that is just open to the elements. And there are holes in the ceiling in some of the closets here that big holes about this size that go right to the attic, come down to the 3rd floor. So there's more air coming in and out. All right, let's try and wrap this up. There were a few issues that came up, a few questions that came up, as in like one that was questioned was, why hasn't this happened again and again? As in the door slam, why hasn't the door slammed from air pressure over and over and over again? And well, there's a simple answer for that. The mansion is not under 24-hour surveillance. There are not cameras here continuously through the night, through the day. So this is a phenomenon, this is an event that could happen every day. We just don't know it because we don't see it. It's plain and simple. It really is as simple as that. But when we get down to it, when you look at the video, and the video is basically a door closing. You don't see anything. You don't see any line or anybody around it. You go down a list. You have to make a list because this is a claim. This is basically a claim of something that's abnormal. It's claimed to be something scary, which it's not. So I don't understand that description. But it's still a claim. So let's go down the list and let's go down the list. How many things could cause this to happen? Yeah, the first thing I guess that is suggested that it's paranormal, that's ghosts. But that should be at the bottom of the list. That should really be the very last thing we consider, because that's when we run out of ideas. We have no clue what's going on. At the top of the list, we could put that somebody was standing there and pushing the door behind. While we looked behind the door, we saw that there's not enough room. You would see it in the video. We could also say that somebody hoaxed it by tying a string to it or a fishing line and pulling it closed. But again, we don't see any evidence of that in the video. There is sound on the video, so that kind of rules out, for most of the time, it rules out somebody being right next to it. I mean, they could be quiet, granted, but I really don't think anybody hoaxed it, and I don't want anybody getting that impression that I think it's hoaxed. And then you come to another possibility that, yeah, it's air pressure, because again, and I know I said this a couple times during this video, but it's something that we've experienced, that I'm sure you've experienced, and I know I have experienced in my 40 years of life. I've experienced this every spring, summer, and fall, and it's just something that happens. So it's definitely on the list, and when you come to that, and we look at everything that's here, we look at the broken windows, we look at the gaps between window frames, we look at the gaps between door frames, which I really didn't get into here. There's slight gaps, but no big deal. The big thing is that there are broken windows and windows missing. So it's definitely open to the outside. It's not just a draft, there's definitely wind coming in. So this is a possibility. And when you get to that item on the list, that is the most plausible explanation of what happened. And I know this is definitely debunking evidence. This is debunking something that happened, that a team came in here and they claimed that it's something scary. And I really don't want to come off, although I don't want to come off as somebody that's saying, hey, you were wrong, I was right, and nah. It's not about that. I think it's simply a misinterpretation of the data that was collected, that it's natural to be excited about something. I mean, you came in here, the ghost hunting teams came in here looking for something. They wanted to get something strange for their TV show. And yeah, catching it on film is kind of strange. It looks strange when you look at it at first, but I think what the mistake was is that they didn't look deeper. They didn't look at all the possibilities and cover any angle. They didn't do enough research to figure out what might have caused this naturally. And I guess that's the whole point of this video. I wrote an article about this, and it was in the May of 2012 issue of the Bed Spoon magazine. And because this footage was actually from January of 2012, I believe. I think that's when it aired. But I went into a lot of detail about this, and I didn't want to just point fingers and say, you know, this team is doing it wrong or this and that. I just wanted to show that there are natural explanations for a lot of this ghostly phenomenon if you look deep enough. You really have to put in the time and do the research, and not just base it off of what you might know or what your team might know. You have to go outside of your team and look for other opinions. And I mean, that goes into the whole open mind thing. If you have an open mind, what's the definition of an open mind? I think we've discussed this in previous videos. The open mind is to take new information and objectively consider it. To say, all right, this is a different point of view. Let me see, this is new information. Does it change my point of view on what's going on? If you're not willing to accept anything, especially with research, and in the article I have all the references to all this research that I did that shows all the information that I supplied is correct. If you're not willing to accept other information, then you are by definition a closed-minded person, and you're not doing yourself a favor. You're not doing your paranormal community any kind of favor by being that way. I guess a lesson that ghost hunting teams can take from this is that all the information that you get from someone that's presenting evidence may not always be correct. It could be mistaken. I mean, for example, when I investigated this, when I started asking questions about this, I was told specifically that there was no broken windows. There were no broken windows or open windows in the place. And if I would have just stopped right there, then I would have been stuck. I would have had nothing to go with. But because I pursued it and actually visited the site, came here, I found that that information was incorrect and that there were broken windows and plenty of them. I mean, basically at the time, and this video right now is taking place about a year after I came here to investigate this thing. At the time, there were broken windows on all four sides of this house. So you had plenty of it to choose from. So always check on the information. And just because they say it doesn't mean it's true. And I'm not saying that they're lying or that they're deliberately trying to deceive you. I'm saying that maybe they're just not aware of it. They came in, they thought all the windows were fine and not broken. But when you come in and verify it, you find out that it was a mistake, and that's it. It's just basically a mistake. And to go even further, I have some videos when I was here a year ago of that big broken window where you see the actual track bag coming in and out, and I'll play that for you. Selma Mansion. We are on the second floor. This is a back bedroom next to the main stairway, and this window has broken glass in it, but most of it's open. From what I can see on the other side of the plastic, I see shutters, I see large openings, and you can see the plastic actually going back and forth, showing airflow coming in and out of the mansion. Alright, so that's basically it. I think that's everything. I think I covered everything, hopefully. When I get home and I start editing all this footage together, I'll figure out where I screwed up, and hopefully I'll give you an update. And that's it. So for now, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it wasn't as funny or freaking out as the other videos I do, but I really wanted to do more of a investigation video to show you how I investigate some things, how far I will go in order to solve a mystery. And this, for me, I solved this. This is pretty much it. I don't think it's any spooky or paranormal thing that went on here. I think it was basically a natural cause that made that door close. So yeah, again, I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments or complaints, please use the lines below here and fill it in. Tell me what you think of it. If you have any ideas, whatever. If you have any complaints or threats, or you want to sue me or call the cops on me, feel free to call Lou Castile in California. You can find him on Facebook. He's friends with me. He's Mexican, so you might want to watch out. Chances are he'll throw some burritos or tacos at you and call you all kinds of names. names, but you won't understand it because he has a thick accent. And that's it. See you later.
Okay, here we are, back at home in my office, nice and warm, and I have an update for you. After I got done the video, the 3 hours of very, very cold weather, I got home last night and I got a phone call. Well, actually, I called Bob from the Ghost Detectives because, there's some little drama shit going on. So, he asked me to call him. So we talked about what I was doing and why I was out there and all this. And two things came up. One, about the video. Now, in my video, in this video that you've been watching, I did mention about the reason I was there was because of a video that appeared on Ghost Detectives and on the Pups YouTube channel or the website, and that there was two versions of this video. Now, when I asked him about that, he came up and said it wasn't their team. The Ghost Detectives and the team that does this show are not responsible for the editing, so it wasn't them. It was a third party. I think, I don't want to speculate. I forget exactly who he told me it was, but it wasn't them. So the miscommunication and the screw up with two versions was not their fault at all. So I just wanted to make that clear. The second thing is that we got to talking about the possibilities of airflow and air pressure and stuff like that, and he told me that after he had talked to Mr. Barry, and this was back when me and Mr. Barry were talking about this. We were having a conversation, so probably about a year ago. What he did was that Bob actually went and checked the weather patterns for that day, and he did find that there were wind gusts from 5 to 8 miles per hour, which it fits in really good with the plausible explanation that it was air pressure that made the door close. And although again we can't prove it at 100%, but with all the information there, with all the facts, with the windows broken and out, and so much open to the outside, we have wind gusts, we have everything that we need to make that happen. What else? There was one last thing, which I really hesitated to mention because, well, I didn't get it on film, but the door closed on me when I was there. After I was done filming and I was packing stuff up and getting ready just to go in and warm up a little bit, I was standing right there when the door closed, and it was because of the wind. I could feel it. I could feel the draft coming in and see the reaction of the door with the wind and how that was interacting. So, for me, this is solved. I figured out what was going on. You might not believe me, you might not agree with me, and that's okay. That's the way it goes. But, again, I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you enjoyed the information that I gave you, and it was understandable and easy to understand, and maybe make you think next time. A door closes on its own next time in a spooky house. Maybe you'll think, maybe it's not a ghost, maybe it has something to do with an open window, and just go around and check. That's all. So, yeah, I hope you learned something. Alright, take it easy.